wish you the best of luck.
Your attention, please. Best of luck. This is just the beginning. Please eradicate all enemies. Just a little bit more. Keep it up.
Answer me, O depths. Power to tear us by the very universe. Yes, more. Struggle more. Yes, struggle more.
Can you solve this puzzle? A remarkable performance. We will now take a short break. Can you solve this puzzle?
Emergency! Code Q!
This isn't over. Please eradicate all enemies. Just a little bit more. Keep it up.
Emergency! Code Q!
A remarkable performance. solve this puzzle?
Emergency! Code! Due!
The end draws near.
Just a little bit more. Keep it up. Just a little bit more. Keep it up.
Emergency! Code! Due!
A remarkable performance.
What's up? Later. Hurry up!
The large-scale operation has ended. Thank you for your support.
Can you solve this puzzle? Just a little bit more. Keep it up.
I am
For the Earth's future and evolution.
Try disciple of Mars. Allow me to drop in. Oh. Oh. Do try not to die. I seem to have warmed up at last. This one will pack a bit of a punch. I doubt
Here
you will
one
get
sacrifice
through that.
Righteousness shatters
Do
all
try not
creation.
to die. I doubt you would get through that. This is enough to defeat me.
Tetragrammaton! This, too, is an end.
Is that all? Great!
Your Majesty, Code
I shall let out divine retribution!
Remarkable performance. Can you solve this puzzle?
Emergency! Code! Jiu!
Yes, go on. Flail.
Emergency! Code! Jiu!
A variable beyond my grasp? The Akashic Records are mine! Omniscience lies beyond the void! Beyond decay! I am Luther the Fallen! I am one with the Akashic Records! Time to end this. The solution tells me that you struggle in vain. A variable beyond my grasp? This cannot be!
Completed!
Please eradicate all enemies.
I'd advise you not to interfere.
Awaken! Great hammer of lightning! Such dazzling possibilities!
Disciple of
Mother
Mercury
tries
and
to
servant of
Mars.
Mother.
Allow me
This
to drop
operation
in.
Wait up!
I seem to have warmed up at last. This is a match to fit me.
Is this how my wish is fulfilled?
My name is Mother. I am here. Precisely as calculated. All accounting. How can my predictions go awry?
challenge has pushed you to your limits, hasn't it?
Emergency! Code! Zero!
I shall let out divine retribution!
A remarkable performance.
Hello? So long. Hello? Thanks for your patronage.
Your search for a challenge knows no bounds.
Emergency! Code! Zero!
insignificant. Get a clue.
You're very nearly finished. Hello? So long. more. Keep it up.
Your Majesty, code due.
Detected formula. Regularity. No more
A remarkable performance. Hello. So long. Can you solve this puzzle?
Your Majesty, code due. Can you solve this puzzle?
Just a little bit more. Keep it up. Just a little bit more. Keep it up.
Emergency! Code due!
A remarkable performance.
Hey, hey! Thank you kindly. Thank you kindly.
This isn't over.
Yes, go on. Flail.
Your Majesty, Code Geass.
A variable beyond my grasp? The Akashic records are mine! Omniscience lies beyond the void! Beyond decay! I am Luther the Fallen! I am one with the Akashic records! Time to end this. The solution tells me that you struggle in vain. I've no use for broken playthings. The solution tells me that you struggle in vain. I need calculations no longer. This cannot be! Did I go wrong?
Your Majesty, Code Geass.
No more. I've time of my life. I'll crush you with the full force of my power. Answer me, O devils. Give me the power to tear asunder the very universe.
Can you
completed.
solve this puzzle?
Your Majesty, code due.
A remarkable performance.
What's up? Thanks a bunch. Later.
Can you solve this puzzle? Please eradicate all enemies.
That's as close as you'll get. I'd advise you not to interfere. Do you really think you've awakened the great hammer of lightning? Such a dazzling possibility.
Disciple of Mercury is certain.
Allow me
This
to drop
operation
in.
will excite the world's
I seem to have learned what it
More power.
How was that? Do try not to die.
Isn't this a blast? No. It's okay. My name is Mother. I am here. Precisely as calculated. Leave! How can my predictions go awry?
Just a little bit more. Keep it up.
I
For
am
the Earth's
feeling
future and
ice.
evolution.
Mother Core disciple of
This
Mars.
one will pack a bit
Allow
of a
me
punch.
to drop in. Oh, do try not to die. I seem to have warmed up at last. Do try not to
Here
die.
once sat wise women.
I doubt you would get
Righteousness shatters all creation.
Oh, this is enough to defeat me.
Tetragrammaton! This, too, is an end and a beginning.
Is that all?
Alright, Your Majesty. Code due.
I shall mete out divine retribution!
A remarkable performance. Can you solve this puzzle?
Emergency! Code Q!
Can you
Completed!
solve this puzzle? Please eradicate all enemies. Just a little bit more. Keep it up. Please eradicate all enemies. This challenge has pushed you to your limits, hasn't it?
Function substitution.
Your Majesty, code due.
Why do you oppose me? Great! Why do you oppose me? Alright! I shall met out divine retribution! Alright!
A remarkable performance.
Hello. Thanks for your patronage. So long.
Hurry up! Hurry up!
Your search for a challenge knows no bounds.
Your Majesty, code due.
Weakling! Weakling! Weakling!
Precious little time remains. Hello? Thanks for your patronage. Please eradicate all enemies. Please eradicate all enemies. Just a little bit more. Keep it up. Precious little time remains. Precious little time remains.
Emergency! Code! Q!
Curse you! Curse you! My power is eternal! A shame beyond measure! Curse you! The end draws near!
Lead it!
Can you solve this puzzle? Precious little time remains.
Emergency!
A remarkable
Code!
performance.
Q!
Hello. Hello. Thanks. So long. Please eradicate all enemies.
We are currently preparing a large-scale operation for all Arsops to fight enemies in their local regions.
Precious little time remains. Just a little bit more. Keep it up. Precious little time remains. Annihilate. All of history shall be undone. Just a little bit more. Keep it up.
Your Majesty, Code Geass.
performance.
Hey, hey! Thank you kindly.
Little time remains. This isn't over. This challenge has pushed you to your limits, hasn't it?
Function substitution. Harmonic annihilation.
Code Geass.
Developing annihilation form.
Precious little time remains.
I shall send out divine retribution! Arise! Soul of futile effort!
A remarkable performance.
What's up? Thanks a bunch.
Yes, go on. Flail.
Your Majesty, Code Geass.
Utterly repulsive! A variable beyond my grasp?
Precious little time remains.
Omniscience lies beyond the void! Beyond decay! I am Luther the Fallen! I am one with the Akashic Records! You're really quite troublesome. The solution tells me that you struggle in vain. I've no use for broken playthings. I need calculations no longer. What an obvious solution. What an obvious solution. The Akashic Records are mine! I am Luther the Fallen. I am one with the Akashic Records. really quite troublesome. What an obvious solution! A variable beyond my grasp! Time to end this. I've no use for broken playthings. What an obvious solution.
Emergency mission alert. Large-scale deployment operation in progress. All
Where did I go?
Quest counter to join the mission.
Your Majesty, code due.
How about this? Yes, more. Struggle more. Weak. It is futile. No voice.
You're almost out of time. Be careful.
Answer me, O depths. Give me the power to tear asunder the very universe. Yes, more. Struggle more. I'm time my life. How about this?
Challenge over. Looks like that was a new personal best.
Survive this utter obliteration!